The alien palace stood like a mountain of silver and crystal above the Star City. Its towers rose high into the clouds, glowing with soft light that reflected the greatness of its people. Yet on that day there was no joy in the palace. The great halls, which normally rang with the voices of nobles and laughter of children, were heavy with silence. Something precious had been lost, something no riches or armies could replace. The child of the queen, the young prince and heir to the throne, was missing. For the alien queen, ruler of her people and guardian of their traditions, this loss was greater than any war. Her son was the future of her people, the symbol of unity for her empire. Without him, everything she built could collapse. Her heart felt torn apart, but as queen she could not show weakness. She sat upon her throne, her crown dimmed by sorrow, while her council argued around her. Some council members shouted that the child had been kidnapped by political enemies. Others claimed it was the work of criminals from the lower levels of the Star City. A few crueler ones even whispered that the child might have wandered off and been lost forever. The queen closed her eyes, feeling as if her whole soul was sinking into darkness. She remembered her son's laugh, the way he would run through the palace gardens chasing the glowing butterflies of their world, and how he would climb into her lap when he was afraid of thunder. To imagine him gone forever was unbearable. Guards had been sent out across the Star City. Drones scanned every street and every ship that tried to leave orbit. Patrols searched the underground tunnels, the marketplaces, even the far-off desert plains. Yet after days of searching, not a single trace of the boy was found. It was as if he had vanished into the shadows. The council began to lose hope. One old advisor bowed his head before the queen and said, "Majesty, we must accept that the child is gone. Perhaps it is fate. We must protect the throne and you must choose a new heir." His words struck her like a blade. The queen's hands tightened on the arms of her throne. She refused to speak because she knew if she did, her grief might break free in front of everyone. It was then that another voice spoke, different from the rest. It was strong, steady, and carried no fear. "I will find him," the voice said. The council turned in surprise. The speaker was not one of them, not even one of their own people. It was a human soldier. The human stood tall among the aliens, though compared to them his body seemed small and fragile. The queen's people were taller, with luminous skin and bright eyes that glowed faintly like stars. The human's appearance was plain, his armor scratched from many battles, his hair cut short, his face marked by scars. He was part of the Alliance. Years before, when humans first made contact with the alien empire, there had been tension, even small wars. But over time, peace was built through shared defense against pirates and raiders. As part of this treaty, a small number of humans served in the Queen's Guard. Most of the alien nobles never trusted them fully. To them, humans were strange and unpredictable, short-lived, emotional, sometimes reckless. Yet here this human stood, speaking boldly when others only whispered. The Queen lifted her head and looked at him with tired eyes. "You, a human, claim you can find what my finest hunters, my fastest ships, and my wisest trackers have failed to find?" "Yes," he answered simply. The council laughed. Some shook their heads. "You overestimate yourself," said one noble. "Even our advanced scanners found nothing." "What can you do?" Another sneered. "Perhaps this human only seeks attention, trying to make himself important." But the soldier did not flinch. His voice was calm, his eyes steady. "Your people look with machines. You search with armies. But sometimes to find something small you need patience, not power. I will not stop until I find him. That is my word." The Queen studied him. She sensed no arrogance in him, no selfish desire. His words carried a strange fire, a determination she had not seen in even her most loyal guards. She thought of the humans she had met in her life. They were fragile compared to her kind, but they burned brightly, like stars that lived fast and shone strong. This soldier was no different. "You speak boldly," she said at last. "But why? The child is not of your blood. Why do you care?" The soldier bowed his head. "Because no child should be lost. Because if he were my child, I would want someone to fight for him. And because you are my ally. If I can give you hope, then that is reason enough." The Queen felt her chest tighten. For a moment her sorrow lifted. She saw in the soldier something her council had forgotten. Courage without calculation, loyalty without condition. "Very well," she said softly. "Then go. Search where others cannot. Bring him back to me." The council erupted in protest, but the queen silenced them with a raised hand. Her voice carried through the hall, firm and unshakable. This human will search for my son. Let no one stand in his way. If there is even the smallest chance, I must take it. The soldier bowed low, his heart steady. He turned and walked from the throne room, his boots echoing on the crystal floor. Behind him, the alien nobles muttered in disbelief, but the queen's eyes followed him until he was gone. For the first time since her son disappeared, she felt a small spark of hope. The human soldier began his search the next morning. He carried little with him: a tracker device, a simple rifle, a survival pack, and a photograph of the prince given to him by the queen. In the picture, the young alien boy smiled brightly, holding a glowing butterfly in his hands. The soldier stared at the photo for a long time, letting the image burn into his memory. Then he stepped into the streets of the Star City. The city stretched wide and endless, filled with tall towers, floating vehicles, and streams of people from every corner of the empire. Bright neon signs lit the markets, while shadows grew thick in the alleys. It was a place of beauty, but also of danger. The soldier moved quietly, asking questions, listening to whispers. He did not expect easy answers. Criminals and mercenaries ruled the underworld here, and they trusted no one. But he was patient. Where the queen's guards had stormed with weapons, he offered simple words and sharp observation. Hours turned to days. He followed tiny clues others had missed: a scrap of fabric caught on a fence, a trail of sand that did not belong to this district, the faint scent of strange chemicals in the air. Piece by piece, he built a picture in his mind. The soldier realized something the others had not. This was not the work of random criminals. It was carefully planned. Someone had taken the prince to strike at the queen herself. At night, as he sat alone in a quiet corner of the city, he looked up at the stars. His body was tired, his wounds from past battles still aching, but his resolve never broke. "I'll find him," he whispered to himself, "no matter what it takes." Back in the palace, the queen stood by the window of her private chambers, staring at the horizon. She thought of her son's laughter, of the promise she made to protect him. Her people expected strength from her, but inside she was filled with fear. Still, she remembered the human soldier's words. No child should be lost. Those words echoed in her heart. She had given him her trust, though others doubted. If he failed, it would break her completely. Yet something deep inside told her that this human was different. And so, while the Empire mourned and the Council prepared for the worst, the Queen waited in silence, her only hope placed in a soldier from another world, a soldier who had promised to bring her child home. The human soldier moved deeper into the Star City, his steps steady and his eyes sharp. The Queen's child was still missing, and every moment that passed made the danger greater. Whoever had taken the prince was skilled. They had erased signs, confused the guards, and left no clear trail. But the soldier refused to give up. He had no great army behind him, no drones flying overhead, and no advanced scanners guiding his path. All he had was patience, instinct, and a promise he had made to the Queen. Whispers in the market. The lower levels of the city were crowded with merchants, traders, and strangers from across the galaxy. Stalls stretched in every direction, glowing with strange lights and filled with voices speaking in dozens of tongues. The soldier walked through slowly, watching everything. His ears caught small details: rumors of a child seen with masked men, whispers of a ship that had docked in secret, and talk of mercenaries moving through the shadows. Most people avoided him. Some sneered at the sight of a human. To them, he was a small creature from a young world not worth respect. But a few gave him glances filled with fear. That told him he was getting close. At one stall, an old alien with gray scales looked at him with cautious eyes. "You are searching for something," the alien said. The soldier nodded. "A child. Taken from the palace," the old alien shook his head. "Dangerous path, human. The ones who took the boy are not ordinary thieves. They are shadows in the city. If you follow them, you may not return." The soldier's expression did not change. "If I do not return, then I will fall while trying. But I cannot stop." The alien studied him for a moment, then whispered a direction. "Docking bays. Level 27. Ask no more." The soldier gave a small nod of thanks and walked away. Traps in the shadows. Level 27 was not like the shining towers of the upper city. Here the air was thick with smoke, the lights dim and the walls covered with rust and grime. The docking bays were half broken, filled with old ships, smugglers, and people who trusted no law but their own. The soldier walked carefully, his hand close to his weapon. He was not afraid, but he respected danger. He knew every corner here could hide an enemy, and he was right. From the shadows, figures moved. 3 mercenaries stepped into the path ahead, their armor dark, their eyes hidden behind masks. Their weapons were drawn. One of them spoke in a harsh voice. "You do not belong here, human." "Turn back." The soldier's voice was calm. "I am looking for a child." "The prince." "Tell me where he is." The mercenaries laughed. Bold words for such a small creature. They aimed their weapons. But before they could fire, the soldier moved. He dropped low, rolled aside, and fired his rifle. A bright shot hit the wall, sending sparks into the air. The mercenaries cursed and spread out, but the human kept moving. He fought not with brute strength, but with speed and skill. He ducked behind cover, used the smoke to hide, and forced them to waste their shots. In moments, he closed the distance. With quick strikes, he disarmed one, knocked down another, and pressed his rifle against the third. "Where is the child?" he demanded. The mercenary spat, refusing to answer. The soldier pressed harder, his eyes burning with determination. "Tell me, or I will keep coming until I find him." "And you know I will." The mercenary hesitated, fear flickering in his eyes. Finally, he growled, "Docking Bay 9, but you are already too late. The ship is preparing to leave." The soldier released him and moved at once. He did not waste time with threats or anger. Every second mattered. The clues grew clear as he ran through the corridors. The soldier's mind worked quickly. The mercenaries had not been guarding the prince directly. They were scouts meant to delay him. That meant the kidnappers knew someone was hunting them. This was no random crime. It was organized, planned carefully. The prince had been taken not for ransom but for power. Whoever held him now wanted to weaken the queen, to shake her throne. The soldier pushed forward, ignoring the pain in his legs. He thought of the queen's face, heavy with sorrow. He thought of the small picture of the prince he carried in his pack. He thought of his promise. "I will not stop," he whispered to himself. Docking Bay 9 was hidden in the farthest corner of the level. Its doors were sealed, its walls guarded by shadows. The soldier approached quietly. From the upper railing he looked down. Below he saw a small ship being prepared for launch. Its engines glowed faintly, ready to fire. Around it stood armed guards, mercenaries more heavily equipped than before. And there, near the ramp of the ship, he saw a small figure. The child. The young prince stood with his hands bound, watched by a tall alien captain. The boy's eyes were wide with fear, but he was alive. The soldier's heart pounded. Relief filled him, but there was no time to celebrate. If the ship launched, the child would vanish into the stars, and finding him would become almost impossible. The soldier took a deep breath. He knew he was outnumbered. He knew the guards had stronger weapons, but he also knew he could not wait. He checked his rifle, steadied his breathing, and prepared to move. A fight against the odds. The soldier dropped from the railing, landing silently behind 2 guards. With swift strikes, he knocked them down before they could react. Shouts filled the bay. The mercenaries turned their weapons on him. Blasts of energy filled the air, striking the floor and walls. The soldier moved fast, weaving between cover, returning fire with precision. One by one, the guards fell. But more kept coming. The soldier's armor burned from near misses. His shoulder bled from a glancing shot, but he did not stop. At last, he reached the ramp of the ship. The captain snarled and pulled the prince back, pressing a blade near the child's neck. "Stay back, human," the captain hissed. "One more step and the air dies." The soldier froze, his weapon aimed but his hand steady. His eyes met the child's. The boy trembled, but in his gaze was trust. The same trust the queen had placed in him. The soldier spoke softly. "It's all right. I will take you home." Then, with sudden speed, he shifted his aim. A precise shot struck the captain's hand, knocking the blade away. The soldier charged forward, tackling the captain to the ground. The fight was brutal. Blows, strikes, and struggle, but the soldier's will was unbreakable. He fought not for himself, but for the child. At last the captain lay defeated. The soldier pulled the boy close, shielding him with his body. "You're safe now," he whispered, a narrow escape, but the battle was not yet done. More guards rushed toward them. The ship's engines roared to life. Time was slipping away. The soldier grabbed the prince's hand and ran. Together they raced across the bay, dodging fire and explosions. The soldier's body burned with exhaustion, but he never loosened his grip on the child. At the last moment, He leapt through a side exit, the boy in his arms, as the ship lifted off and thundered into the sky. They tumbled into the shadows of the alley beyond, breathless but alive. The boy clung to him, shaking but unharmed. The soldier looked down at the prince, his own chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. "I've found you," he said quietly, "and I will not lose you again." The queen's hope far away in the palace, the queen stood by her window, her heart heavy. She did not know where her son was or if he was safe. Yet deep within, she felt a strange warmth, as if hope had returned. She thought of the human soldier walking alone into danger. Perhaps her council doubted him, but she believed. And somewhere in the shadows of the city, that human now carried her child in his arms. The journey was far from over. Enemies still hunted them, and greater dangers waited ahead. But the first step had been taken. The child was alive, and the human soldier had proven that he would not stop until he kept his promise. The human soldier held the young prince close as they moved through the dark alleys of the Star City. The boy was frightened, his small hands gripping the soldier's armor tightly, but he did not cry. He trusted the human. For the soldier, that trust was heavier than any weapon. It was a responsibility he would not break. The city around them was alive with noise, shouts from merchants, distant hums of vehicles, and echoes of alarms. Already the kidnappers knew their plan had been interrupted. More hunters would come. The soldier had little time. He had saved the prince from boarding the mercenary ship, but safety was still far away. The prince looked up with wide, glowing eyes. "Will you take me back to my mother?" "Yes," the soldier said firmly. "But first I must hide you. If they catch us again, it will be worse." A place to rest. The soldier carried the boy through twisting passages until they reached an abandoned workshop. Dust coated the walls, and broken machines lay scattered across the floor. It was quiet here, far from the crowded markets and guarded docks. He placed the child on a bench and knelt down. "You are safe for now. Rest here. I will watch the doors." The prince shook his head. "They will come again. I heard them speak. They said I must be taken to their master. They said it is not about money." The soldier's eyes narrowed. He had guessed this much, but hearing it from the boy confirmed it. The kidnapping was not random. Someone powerful wanted the heir gone. Someone who wished to weaken the queen. The soldier sat beside the child and spoke gently. "Do you know where they meant to take you?" The boy thought hard, then nodded slowly. "They spoke of a hidden base under the city. They said it was older than the palace, a place where even light does not enter." The soldier understood. The underlevels of the Star City were ancient, built long before the shining towers above. Many passages were forgotten, used only by smugglers, mercenaries, and conspirators. If the kidnappers had a base there, it would be nearly impossible for the Queen's guards to find it. But not impossible for him. Setting out again, the soldier bound the wound on his shoulder where a blaster shot had grazed him earlier. He ignored the pain. The mission mattered more. Then he looked at the prince. "I must take you there," he said. "If we find their base, we will learn who is behind this, and then I can return you safely to your mother." The boy's small face was pale, but his voice was steady. "I will be brave." The soldier felt a flicker of pride. The prince was young, but courage already lived in him. It reminded the human of his own childhood, when he had learned to stand tall despite fear. "Stay close," he said, "and do not let go of my hand." Together, they left the workshop and descended deeper into the city. Into the underlevels, the lights grew dimmer the farther they went. The air turned colder, filled with the smell of rust and damp stone. Pipes hissed above them, leaking steam. The walls were cracked, covered with strange symbols from long-forgotten times. Few people lived here now. Those who did stayed hidden, watching silently from doorways as the soldier passed with the prince. Whispers followed them, rumors spreading that a human carried the queen's heir. Some voices spoke with pity, others with greed, but none dared to act openly. The soldier kept his rifle ready. His every sense was alert. He knew eyes were watching. He knew danger waited. Finally, they reached a gate of black steel, half buried in rubble. The prince tugged at his hand. "This is the place. I remember their voices here." The soldier studied the gate. Faint energy lines glowed across its surface, security locks, old but still active. It would take time to break through, but he did not need time. He had skill. From his pack he drew small tools, devices humans had designed for survival in hostile worlds. With steady hands he bypassed the locks one by one. Sparks flew. The gate groaned. Slowly, it opened. Darkness stretched beyond. The hidden prison inside, the passage was narrow and cold. Strange lights flickered on the ceiling, casting long shadows. The soldier moved carefully, the prince behind him. Every step echoed loudly, reminding them both how alone they were. At last they reached a chamber, and there the soldier saw the truth. Cells lined the walls, iron cages with energy barriers. Inside them, prisoners sat in silence. Some were criminals, some were poor workers taken as slaves, and some were political enemies. But all of them looked up with hollow eyes when the soldier entered. This was no simple hideout. It was a secret prison. The soldier's heart grew heavy. How long had this place existed under the city? How many had suffered here while the queen above never knew? He moved quickly, scanning the cells. Then he froze. In the farthest cell he saw a small bed. Chains lay on the ground, broken by his earlier rescue. This was where the prince had been kept before being moved to the ship. The boy shivered at the sight, but he stood tall beside the soldier. "They said their master would come for me here," the child whispered. The soldier placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Then we will not wait for him. We will learn who he is, and we will end this." A shadowed meeting as, if summoned by the words, footsteps echoed in the distance. The soldier pushed the prince behind him and raised his rifle. From the far passage figures emerged, more mercenaries, their armor black and their faces hidden, and behind them walked a taller figure cloaked in silver. The cloak moved like smoke and the figure's voice was smooth, sharp like a blade. "So, the human who troubles us." The soldier said nothing. His finger rested lightly on the trigger. "You should not be here," the cloaked one continued. "The boy was meant to be ours. With him gone, the queen will break, her people will fall, and a new rule will rise from the shadows." The soldier's voice was calm, but his words were firm. "You will not have him." The cloaked figure laughed softly. "You are only one human. Do you think you can stand against us all?" The soldier did not move. His eyes burned with quiet fire. "I do not think I know." The battle in the prison. The mercenaries charged. Blades and blasters filled the chamber. The soldier moved with speed and focus, his rifle flashing, his body weaving through the storm. He fought like a man who had nothing to lose, like a man who had promised not to fail. The prince watched from behind a fallen barrier, his heart racing. He had never seen such courage before. The human seemed small compared to the tall mercenaries, but he never fell. Every strike, every movement was for the boy's sake. Prisoners shouted from their cells, their voices echoing in the chaos. Some cheered, some wept, but all watched as the lone human fought against the shadows. At last, the chamber grew quiet. The mercenaries lay defeated. Only the cloaked figure remained. The soldier pointed his rifle, but the figure raised a hand. Energy swirled, knocking the weapon aside. The soldier stumbled, his chest burning. This enemy was more than flesh and bone. He carried strange powers or machines hidden beneath his cloak. "You cannot win," the figure hissed, but the soldier rose again, blood on his lip, fire in his eyes. "Maybe not, but I will never stop." With a roar, he charged. A narrow escape. The fight was fierce. The cloaked one struck with waves of energy, each blow like thunder. The soldier endured, his body bruised, but he kept moving. He fought with fists, with knives, with every ounce of strength left in him. At last, with a desperate strike, he ripped away part of the cloak. Beneath it, he saw the truth. The figure was not fully alive. Parts of its body were machine, wires and steel mixed with flesh. a hybrid of alien and technology. The figure shrieked and pulled back, sparks flying. "This is not finished, human. The boy will be ours." With that, he vanished into the shadows, leaving only silence behind. The soldier fell to one knee, exhausted. The prince rushed to his side, fear in his eyes. "Are you hurt?" the boy asked. The soldier smiled weakly. "I've had worse. Come, we must leave before more come." The weight of secrets as they left the prison, the soldier thought deeply. Now he knew this was more than kidnapping. It was rebellion led by enemies hidden within the city, using forbidden machines to grow strong. The queen had to know. But more than that, the soldier knew the danger was far from over. The cloaked one would return, and next time, he would bring greater forces. Still, he felt hope. The boy was safe for now. That was enough. Back to the light. They climbed out of the underlevels and reached the higher streets where sunlight broke through the towers. The boy blinked at the light, clutching the soldier's hand. "Will you still take me to my mother?" he asked quietly. The soldier knelt, meeting the prince's eyes. "Yes, I promised her I would bring you home, and I never break my word." The boy nodded. For the first time since his capture, a small smile touched his face. The soldier stood tall, his body aching but his resolve unbroken. He looked toward the palace rising above the city. The battle was not done. The war in the shadows had only begun. But he would face it all, because he was human, because he had given his word, and because no child should ever be lost. The human soldier carried the young prince through the narrow streets of the Star City, every step filled with caution. Their victory in the hidden prison had been hard won, but it had not ended the danger. The cloaked figure, the hybrid of alien and machine, had threatened them, and its words were a warning. More enemies would come. The prince clung to him, trembling but trusting, his small hands wrapped tightly around the soldier's armor. Every blink, every sound could be a threat, yet he felt safer than he had in days. The soldier's eyes scanned every shadow, every doorway, every rooftop. He knew the city was no longer neutral. Mercenaries, spies, and hidden hunters could strike from anywhere. Yet he moved steadily, using his knowledge of the city's underlevels to stay one step ahead. A race against time. They needed a safe route out of the city, a path that would take them above the towers and into open space. The soldier carried the prince across broken streets, dodging debris and leaping over fallen structures. The city around them was chaotic, with alarms ringing from distant districts. The captors had already sent search parties. From above, the city's skyways were filled with patrol ships scanning the streets. One wrong move and they could be detected. The soldier whispered to the prince, "Stay low. Hold on tight. Trust me." The boy nodded, eyes wide but calm. He had seen the soldier fight, and he knew he would not fail. Pursued by shadows as they reached a quiet alley, the first pursuers appeared. Two mercenaries armed with energy rifles moved quickly, scanning every corner. They spotted the soldier and fired. Bright blasts struck the walls, sending sparks and smoke into the air. The soldier moved without hesitation. He shielded the prince with his own body, rolling to the side and firing back. The first mercenary went down, but the second ducked behind cover and continued shooting. The chase had begun. The soldier led the prince through twisting streets, rooftops, and narrow corridors, always keeping ahead of the pursuing force. The city's layout worked in his favor. Years of study and previous missions had taught him the secret passages, the hidden platforms and forgotten corridors that only a few knew. The pursuers were fast, but the soldier was faster. The Starway Bridge, after what felt like hours, they reached a massive bridge stretching high above the city. The bridge connected two districts and overlooked the glowing towers below. The soldier paused, catching his breath, but he did not rest. The pursuers were closing. He looked at the prince. "You can jump with me if you trust me. Hold on tight." The prince hesitated, fear in his eyes. "What if I fall?" "You won't," the soldier said with quiet confidence. "I will not let you." With a deep breath, the soldier leapt across the gap in the bridge, landing on the next platform. The prince held on tightly, and the leap was successful. Behind them, the pursuers tried to follow, but the gaps in height slowed them down. The soldier knew every second counted. They could not stop until they were far from the city. Ambushed in the alleyways as they continued their escape, another group of enemies appeared, 5 heavily armored mercenaries with advanced weapons. The soldier cursed under his breath. There were too many. There was no room for a direct fight. He looked around and saw a narrow alley to the side, barely wide enough for them to pass. "This way!" he shouted. The boy followed, holding on tightly as the soldier led them through the alley's twists and turns. Blaster shots rang out behind them, striking walls, barrels, and debris. The soldier used every tactic he knew, ducking, rolling, and firing precise shots to slow the pursuers. The mercenaries were skilled, but the soldier's determination was greater. He was not fighting for glory or reward. He was fighting to keep a promise. The hidden craft. Finally, after a long sprint through the city's labyrinthine streets, they reached an abandoned hangar. Inside lay a small transport craft, powered but hidden beneath crates and scaffolding. The soldier smiled briefly. This was their chance. If they could get the prince into space, they might escape the city entirely. He carried the boy inside, checking the systems of the craft. It was old but reliable. Its engines hummed with potential energy, ready to take them away from the dangers below. The soldier set the controls, preparing for takeoff. But just as they were about to leave, a shadow fell across the hangar doors. The cloaked figure had returned, flanked by more mercenaries. The soldier's heart raced, but he did not panic. He held the prince close. "You cannot escape," the figure said, voice echoing. "The boy belongs to us." The soldier's grip on his weapon tightened. He belongs to no one but his mother. The final battle in the hangar. The fight erupted with sudden violence. Blaster fire lit the hangar like fireworks. Sparks flew, machines groaned under the stress, and crates toppled as the soldier fought. He moved like a force of nature, dodging, striking, and defending the boy at every turn. The cloaked figure unleashed strange energy blasts, sending debris flying. The soldier rolled behind cover, firing at the mercenaries with precision. He fought not recklessly, but with strategy and focus. The prince watched from the soldier's side, clinging to his armor, eyes wide but inspired. He saw courage and strength, and it gave him hope. At last, the cloaked figure raised its hand for a final strike. Energy surged, brighter and hotter than before. The soldier acted without hesitation. He pushed the prince into the craft and hit the engines, sending the hangar doors sliding open. Into space, the craft lifted, the engines roaring to life. The soldier piloted carefully, weaving through debris and dodging energy blasts. The cloaked figure and the remaining mercenaries fired from the hangar, but the craft moved too fast, escaping their aim. Above the city, the sunlight broke through the towers. The star city shrank beneath them, a glowing jewel in the void. The soldier looked at the prince. "We're almost safe," he said, though he knew danger still lingered. The boy smiled faintly, tired but relieved. "You promised," he said softly. "I always keep my promises," the soldier replied. The pursuit continues, but safety was not complete. The cloaked figure was persistent, and somewhere in the city more mercenaries were preparing to follow. The soldier knew that their escape was temporary, yet he also knew the first step had been taken. He set a course for a hidden outpost in the outer orbit of the city, a place where the Queen's fleet could meet them safely. It would take hours to reach, but during that time he could rest and plan the next move. The prince leaned against him, finally allowing himself to relax. "Will my mother be happy to see me?" he asked. The soldier smiled. "She will be more than happy. She will be proud, and so will your people." The boy closed his eyes, trusting the human completely. A promise, kept as the craft moved through the empty skies of space. The soldier thought of the Queen. He thought of her grief and how it had inspired him to act. He thought of the dangers they had faced and the battles yet to come. But most of all, he thought of the child in his arms. Every risk, every fight, every danger he had faced was worth it for this moment. "I will get you home," he whispered. "No one can stop me, not now. Not ever." The prince smiled faintly, and for the first time since his capture, hope returned. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, and the human soldier guided them safely toward the promise of light, freedom, and the Queen waiting above. The chase was not over, but the first victory was theirs. The human soldier piloted the small craft through the vast emptiness of space, holding the young prince safely in his arms. The boy was exhausted, but his eyes shone with a mixture of fear, relief, and wonder. For the first time since his capture, he could imagine being home again, in the safety of his mother's arms. The soldier glanced at him, his own body weary from battle, bruises, and near misses, but his determination remained unshaken. Every scar, every cut, every moment of pain had led to this point. The prince's life was safe. That was all that mattered. The approach to the palace far ahead. The alien palace gleamed like a mountain of crystal under the light of 3 suns. Its towers sparkled with energy, visible even from space, a beacon of power and beauty. Below, the Star City stretched like a jewel, its streets humming with activity. The soldier set a careful course, avoiding patrol ships and energy barriers. The prince leaned against him, tired but quiet. For the first time, he felt hope. The soldier spoke softly. Almost there. Your mother will be waiting. You will see her soon. The boy nodded, eyes wide. Do you think she will be happy? The soldier smiled gently. She will be more than happy. She will be proud of you, and proud of what we've done together. The boy pressed his small hands against the soldier's chest. Thank you, he whispered. The soldier felt a warmth in his chest. He had risked everything, yet the reward was far greater than any medal or honor. It was the boy's trust, the boy's life, and the hope of a future returned, landing at the palace. The craft descended toward the palace, careful to avoid detection and collisions. The palace guards, initially tense at the human pilot's approach, recognized the insignia of the Queen's ally fleet and allowed the craft to land safely. As the doors opened, the soldier lifted the prince from his seat and carried him toward the palace's main hall. The halls were bright, filled with glowing panels and reflective surfaces, but the human's focus was only on the small figure in his arms. People stepped aside, whispering and pointing. They had heard rumors of the human who had ventured into the depths of the city, who had fought impossible odds, and who had returned with the Queen's son. Few had believed it possible, but now the proof was here. The soldier's footsteps echoed through the hall as he approached the throne room. Reunion with the Queen. The Queen stood at the center of the hall, her radiant presence filling the room. Her eyes widened as she saw the human carrying her son. For a moment she could not speak. The child she had feared lost forever was alive, and he was in the arms of a human, a member of a world she had once only trusted reluctantly. Mother. The boy cried, wriggling free from the soldier's arms and running into her. The Queen knelt, enveloping him in her arms. Her tears flowed freely, her joy overwhelming every other emotion. The boy clung to her, smiling through tears. I am safe, Mother. He saved me. The Queen's gaze turned to the human soldier. Relief and gratitude filled her eyes, shining brighter than any jewel in the palace. She rose, her regal form towering yet warm. You, she said, voice steady but filled with emotion, are the one who brought my son back to me. You risked your life, fought against impossible odds, and kept your promise. For this I owe you more than words can express. The soldier bowed his head humbly. I did only what I had to do, Majesty. The prince is safe, and that is enough for me. The Queen studied him, her eyes piercing yet kind. Enough? No. What you have done goes beyond duty. You have shown courage, loyalty, and heart. You have proven that humanity is worthy of trust, worthy of honor, recognition and honor. The Queen raised her hand, and a herald stepped forward, unfurling a scroll of recognition. By the decree of the Queen, the human soldier who returned the heir to the throne is granted the highest honor of our people. He shall be known as protector of the line, defender of the future of the Empire. The hall erupted in applause, both alien and human allies showing respect for the soldier's deeds. Yet he remained quiet, his eyes never leaving the boy who now sat beside the Queen, safe and smiling. A council member whispered, "This is extraordinary. A human has earned the highest honor of our people." The Queen turned toward them. Extraordinary? No, it is what is right. Courage, loyalty, and honor are not limited to one species. They exist wherever there is heart and determination. Today, humanity has proven this. The soldier felt a weight lift from him. Recognition was not what he had sought, but it was a powerful moment. The Queen's words carried the respect of an entire empire. A quiet conversation later, when the hall was quieter, the Queen approached the soldier privately. "Come with me," she said softly. They walked to a balcony overlooking the city. The Queen's expression softened. "You could have left, returned to your own world. Yet you stayed. You risked everything for a child not your own, for a queen you barely knew. Why? The soldier looked out at the horizon. Because no child should be lost. Because if that were my child, I would want someone to fight for him. And because I promised. Once I give my word, I do not break it. The queen studied him. She had met many humans before, but this one was different. His courage, his loyalty, his heart, it was something rare. She felt hope for her empire. Hope that humans could be allies not only in battle but in spirit. You have earned not only honor, but trust, she said, and gratitude. Know that you will always have a place in this palace, in this empire. The soldier nodded quietly. Words were not necessary. His actions had already spoken. Healing and celebration. In the days that followed, the palace was alive with celebration. The prince was reunited with tutors, playmates, and the servants who adored him. The queen held him close, grateful beyond measure. The human soldier was given quarters within the palace. He healed from his injuries while being respected by all. Though he rarely sought attention, the story of his courage spread through the empire. Aliens and humans alike spoke of him, not as a mere soldier, but as a hero whose heart had saved the future. The prince spent long hours by his side asking questions, learning and laughing. The soldier shared stories of bravery, strategy, and humanity, teaching the boy not just how to survive, but how to be brave and kind. The queen watched them, her heart lighter than it had been in weeks. She knew the future of her son and the strength of her people was brighter because of the human who had risked everything. A final promise one evening. Standing beneath the twin moons, the prince tugged at the soldier's hand. Will you always protect me? The soldier knelt, meeting the boy's glowing eyes. Always, he said. I promised your mother I would bring you home, and I will always keep my promises. The prince smiled, finally free of fear. Thank you, he said simply. The soldier's heart swelled. This was his reward. The safety of the child, the trust of the queen, and the knowledge that he had done what was right. Above, the stars shone brightly, reflecting the hope that now filled the palace and the city. For the human soldier, the adventure had been perilous, but it had proven something far greater, that courage, loyalty, and heart could cross worlds, species, and impossible odds, and the queen, holding her son, knew this as well. Humanity had shown its finest qualities, and for that she would never forget the human who brought her child back. A new beginning. The city resumed its life below. But something had changed. The bond between worlds had grown stronger. The queen knew that with allies like this human soldier, her people could face any challenge. No matter how dark or dangerous, the prince, now safe, grew stronger each day, guided by the soldier's courage and the queen's wisdom. Together they symbolized hope for the empire. The human soldier, once just a member of an alien alliance, had become a hero. Not for fame, not for reward, but for a promise kept, a life saved, and a future restored. And in the quiet moments, when the palace lights dimmed and the stars glimmered above, he stood on the balcony watching over the city. He knew there would be more battles, more dangers, and more choices. But he also knew this: where courage, honor, and heart exist, no child and no world will ever be truly lost.